Mike Peruce here, founder and chief investment officer of Scale Investment Group, a boutique investment management firm in Southeast Michigan. It's that time of year again. It's a new year. Yeah, 2025 really came up on us quick, at least it did for me. If you're like most people, you've probably got some New Year's resolutions, and a lot of us make New Year's resolutions that are really aggressive goals. They kind of alter who we are into who we want to be. For example, a lot of folks I know are really into working out, right? So they may have slacked off at some point in the prior year and they're going to say, well, this year I'm really doing it. I'm going to wake up an hour and a half early so I can get to the gym and get my workout in before work. And that's unrealistic. You're not going to be able to stick with that long term, at least most of us aren't, because it requires you to change fundamentally who you are or what you're used to doing or how you act on a day-to-day basis. Now, is it possible? Absolutely. 100% is possible. I don't want to burst anybody's bubble and suggest otherwise, but it's very difficult because you have to have that same kind of motivation day in, day out. Whereas some financial New Year's resolutions, 10 of them, in fact, that I've got for you today, are going to be pretty easy because they require very minimal effort for you. Some less than others, but there might be an initial 15 or 20 minutes of setup time, and then you don't have to do anything for the rest of the year or very little. In fact, a lot of these will save you time and money, and that's why they're great financial New Year's resolutions because they're going to be easy to keep. So the first one is automate your bills. A lot of us get paid via direct deposit, and that's great. That makes money coming in really easy. Gone are the days where you got paid on a Friday and had to go to the bank on your way home from work and deposit that check. We don't have to do that anymore, at least most of us. And those that do, maybe do it occasionally when we get a check here or there. Now, with that said, a lot of folks are not automating the opposite end of the spectrum, the bills that they have to pay. Sure, some of them might be automated, but not all of them. And if you're not automating your bills, you're missing out because there's two things that could potentially go wrong that absolutely don't need to go wrong, right? Late payments and late fees. And that all culminates in what? Hurting your credit score, right? So you can avoid all of that by just automating your bill pay. It's hard to keep track of everything. You've got a phone bill, an electric bill, a gas bill, internet bill, a cable bill, a mortgage, maybe rent, car payment, maybe another car payment. Who knows what other subscription services you're part of, right? If you just automate all of that, then you don't have to think about it. Now, speaking of improving your credit, number two, check your credit score regularly. One of the main three credit reporting bureaus allows you to get a free report from them every single year. Now, that's only once a year. That's probably fine in a lot of cases. But if you want to check it more often, there's a whole bunch of services out there. I'm not going to name them because I don't want it to sound like I'm recommending one versus the other. I'm sure there's many, but there's one that I use that I check maybe once a quarter or so. And it makes sense to do that because not only do you know what your credit score is, so if you're going to get a loan, they can't BS you and say, hey, your credit score is only a 630 when you know that it's an 815 or whatever. The second thing is if somebody's trying to open up credit in your name, if you've got some, identity fraud or something like that going on, that's a great way to make sure you find out about it before it becomes a problem. So check your credit regularly, at least annually. If you can, more often, quarterly is good. I like that. Number three, cancel subscriptions that you don't want or don't need, or worse yet, have forgotten that you have. A lot of people pay for Netflix or Hulu or a monthly or weekly meal delivery service of, human food or dog food or, there's tons of these things, right? And it's a great business model if you're trying to sell stuff to people. And it's very sticky, right? Because people often will stop using it or forget about it, and then they won't cancel it for 6 or 12 months. Well, now you're paying 10 or 20 or $30 a month unnecessarily for something that you no longer want or need. Get rid of those, okay? It's just going to simplify your life. And, I'm not saying get rid of Netflix if you watch Netflix every single night. Although if you're watching Netflix every single night, maybe you got other issues going on. I don't know. Not one to judge, I'm just saying. But think about what you do want and what you don't want. And if it's unnecessary or useless, cancel it. That stuff adds up, believe me. Number four is make smarter choices. So Included in canceling subscriptions that you're not using or don't want anymore is making smarter choices with the things that you are buying, right? A lot of people like Starbucks. It doesn't have to be Starbucks. Everybody always picks on Starbucks, but it could be any kind of like coffee place, or if you go out to lunch regularly. Think about it. If you're buying coffee at Starbucks and it costs you $5 a day, and you're doing that every day that you go to work, so 5 times a week, times 4 weeks, that's $100 a month. You're looking at almost $1,200 a year at that point, right? How much coffee would cost you, or how much would coffee cost you if you had just made it at home and brought it with you in a thermos or whatever? I mean, you're saving hundreds, if not $1,000 per year. And double that if you're a married couple and you're both doing it, right? Same goes for eating out at lunch or regularly eating out for dinner, or worse yet, getting like DoorDash or any of these kind of like delivery services. Those are really expensive. A pack of fries and a burger and a Coke might be, I don't know, $7, $8, $10 at McDonald's. I have no idea. I don't eat fast food. But, if you're getting that DoorDash, now all of a sudden, instead of $10, it costs you $20 plus tip, right? So think about it. It doesn't make sense in most cases. So just make smarter choices. Number 5 is make credit cards work for you. Under no circumstances should you ever carry a balance on the credit card if it can at all be avoided. And if you do currently have one, make sure you pay it off ASAP. Now, with that said, all credit cards are not created equal. Some credit cards give you certain benefits. I like cashback cards, and Discover, I think, was one of the first ones that did that, but there's all kinds now. There's Visas and MasterCards and maybe even Amex. There's all kinds of frequent flyer cards. I personally prefer cashback rather than frequent flyer because things change in the airline industry. They come with lots of strings attached. You can only fly on this airline and you can only fly these hours or these dates. Whereas if you get cashback, if you want to spend it on an airline ticket, go right ahead. You don't have to worry about all of those specific rules and regulations. But first, definitely pay off your credit card. A lot of people sometimes ask me, well, which credit card has the lowest interest rate? And I said, it shouldn't matter to you because you should not be carrying a balance. You should be charging whatever you charge on the credit card, pay it off at the end of the month. And now that credit card is paying you because you're getting 1% cash back or more, whatever the case may be, right? So make smarter decisions, and that includes making credit cards work for you. Number 6, set up a savings account. Now, you just saved a whole bunch of money by avoiding late fees, canceling subscriptions, making smarter choices. You've got some cash back from your credit card purchases, right? Take that money and put it into a savings account. Now your money is making money for you while you sleep. It's a small start, but it's an easy thing to do. Also, look around, right? Because sure, ease of use, right? You go to your local bank and they'll set up a savings account for you. And it's really easy, but bank savings accounts typically pay very little, almost next to nothing, right? So shop around. There's online banks, there's money market accounts that'll, in most cases, probably pay more than you're getting at your local bank. Check out your local credit union if you're eligible to be a member of any credit union. Sometimes they have better rates on savings vehicles than banks will. Now, with that said, you do have to shop around a little bit. But when you're shopping, avoid CDs, certificates of deposits, because they do lock you in for a period of time. And I don't want you locked in, right? If the purpose of the savings account is to initially get you started in savings and you want to have 3 to 6 months of living expenses kind of set aside, then you absolutely do not want that to be locked up. Let's say you lose your job, right? Now you got to tap into your savings. Well, if your savings is in a CD and now you've got to forfeit the last quarter's worth of interest and you've got to pay an early termination fee in order to access that, that's going to leave a sour taste in your mouth. Don't do that, right? Sure, you might be missing out on a little bit of interest, but it's better to, in that case, for the first 3 to 6 months worth of savings, living expenses, right? It's better to forego a little bit of interest, but just to have that peace of mind and have it readily accessible when and if you need it. Number 7, speaking of shopping around, shop around. A lot of people will shop around when they're buying something like a washer or a dryer or a car or a house, right? Big ticket items, things that typically cost a decent chunk, more than you kind of spend in your day-to-day, $20 here, $40 there. Now that makes sense, right? If you're buying something that costs 1,000 or many thousands of dollars, you want to get a good deal on it. But where people often fail to shop around is if you're financing something like a car or a home, you're looking at the price of the car or the home. What folks are failing to do is looking at, if you're financing it, the interest payments, right? Does it matter if I pay 50 grand or 48 grand for a car if I have vastly different interest rates from two different banks? You know, that 2 grand that you're saving by paying 48 versus 50,000 for that vehicle might be more than eaten away by the increased interest rate over that 5 or 6 or 7, or now they're doing 8-year terms on car loans. So do the math, right? It's not just the bottom line price of the vehicle, but also the cost of the financing. So if you're going to shop around, really shop around. Number 8 is taxes. Save on taxes. I don't want you paying taxes. Taxes are ridiculous, right? The government's just going to waste it anyway. So put money into an IRA or a 401k. It decreases your taxable income, right? If you made 50 grand and you put 5 grand into an IRA, now only 45,000 of that counts as taxable income for purposes of the IRS. Now, yes, it comes with some drawbacks, right? The money is taxed upon withdrawal, and you can't withdraw it until you're 59 and a half. But you're doing future you a favor, right? You're setting money aside for retirement. And there are some current benefits as well, writing a smaller check to the IRS or getting a refund. Number 9, speaking of 401k funds, don't leave free money on the table. If you work at a company that has a 401k plan and they offer a match, if you're not taking full advantage of it, you are absolutely just shooting yourself in the foot, right? It's free money. I mean, would you stop and pick up free money if it's to the tune of hundreds, potentially thousands of dollars, depending on the match schematic that your employer has? Absolutely. So yes, it comes with a lot of the same kind of drawbacks, right? You can't pull it out until you're retired and all of that. But that makes sense, right? Would you rather have $5 today or $25, 20 years from now? And number 10, last but not least, create some documentation to track your progress. Monthly budget is great. A lot of people don't like that. I get it, right? It depends. If you're the kind of person that likes to track things like budgets, then absolutely go ahead and have one. It helps show you whether or not you're on track or not. What I like to do is have something that tracks kind of more long-term, right? Look at like a net worth statement. So every month or every quarter, you write down all your assets and then you write down all your liabilities. And then you add the two together, and whatever the number is, that's your net worth, right? So if you've got $1 million home, but you got an $800,000 loan against it, your net worth is only $200,000, assuming no other assets, right? So that's a great way of making sure, or tracking rather, where you stand. Another way is, if you're a spreadsheet kind of person, I certainly am, a great way to do this is have 2 columns, right? One is like your outstanding debt. So as the debt goes down month by month or quarter by quarter, you see that you've got $10,000 on your car note, and then you've paid off 6,000 of it, so now you've only got 4,000. So that debt line's going to be going down. And then the flip side is you've got the asset side, and it shows the value of your home. Now these are going to be estimates, right? But your home was valued at 300,000 last year, and now it's worth 320,000. Okay, so you've got a $20,000 bump in your net worth right there. It's like with working out, and that's how we started talking about this, New Year's resolution kind of thing. Working out is tough because it requires you to be kind of present and active every single day, right? Whereas if you're doing these financial things, they, in many cases, only require you to do something once a month. Or some of them you can set up once and then forget about it. You never have to look at it again if you don't want to, other than to track how well you're doing, right? And that's more of it's nice to do, it's not a requirement necessarily. So if you set these things up and you have a way of making sure that your progress is being tracked, you're much more likely to continue doing it. It's just like if you continue going to the gym and you're losing weight, and you see the number on the scale going down, or you see yourself looking better in the mirror, whatever the case may be, you're much more likely to continue down that path because you're seeing results. This is a great way of making sure you're tracking and then being able to see your own results in the financial sense, not the physical sense. So that's all from me, and those are your top 10 financial New Year's resolutions that are going to be fairly easy, if not really easy, for you to follow because they only require a little bit of time, some less than others, some don't require any follow up. Keep in mind also that I'm a financial advisor, but I'm not necessarily your financial advisor. So some of these recommendations may not necessarily apply to you and your specific situation. If you have any questions or concerns, whether or not something makes sense for you, consult somebody that you trust, or you can reach out to me as well. And that's it. Those are your top 10. Wishing everybody a very happy, healthy, and profitable 2025. Talk to you next time.